The steamship John Doan went aground on Dead Man's Reef while making the passage between Scott Island and the mainland. It was the first shipwreck off Scott Island in more than 12 years. And for the first time in the history of the island, a Scot was charged with inefficiency and neglect of duty as Harbormaster.
Adventure at Scott Island. Starring Barry Sullivan as Harbormaster. Brought to you by Camel, America's most popular cigarette.
And now, James Daly. Tonight, David Scott is confronted with a violation of one of the oldest laws of the sea. As we watch how he handles this situation, enjoy a Camel. No fads or fancy stuff about this cigarette. It smokes mild, it tastes good. Camel is a real cigarette.
Miss Coffin, this is Jeff Kittredge down at the Harbormaster's. Yes, ma'am. I'm just fine. Miss Coffin, what I called about, we've had a ship go aground off Dead Man's Reef, and we need rooms for the survivors. You can take 2. Well, that's fine. What's that? Will I what? Yes, Miss Coffin, I'll personally guarantee there'll be men of high moral standards. Yes. Well, thank you very much. Hello, Nellie. Nellie? Nellie, ring the Keziah Brewsters for me, will you, please? Oh, and Nellie, don't listen so loud. I can hear you breathing.
No, not yet, Tom, no. The survivors are all ashore. No, not the Susan Doan, Tom. The John Doan, out of New York. Same owners. Doan Line Freighters. Yeah. Yeah, sure, Tom. I'll keep in touch. Coast Guard's taking over. What's the picture, Dan?
Second lifeboat came ashore below the point. Some of the survivors are down at the yacht club.
Any losses?
None that I know about.
Knock it off, Jeff. Let's talk to those people.
Right.
Who's in charge here?
I am. Jorgensen, first mate.
David Scott, Harbormaster.
Commander.
Mr. will do.
That's the pilot's up on the rocks. This is...
Wiggle a finger and I'll break your arm.
Let me go.
All right, mister, now let's act civilized. How did your ship go aground?
We pile up on the rocks because your stinking channel buoys are off position. The pilot's manual says to fetch buoy 1 off your port quarter, then steer 10 degrees starboard to line up on channel. That's exactly what we did. We pile up on the reef.
Who had the deck when it happened?
I did. And don't tell me I didn't fetch the light, mister. I'm no freshwater bargeman.
Who's your skipper?
Captain Moffat.
Where's he?
Stayed aboard. Afraid one of your thieving islanders might claim salvage on an abandoned ship.
Easy on that thieving business, mister. What was your cargo?
Coal. And Nels Jorgensen ain't losing his ticket on your account, Scott.
What do you mean by that?
That light was out of position. I'm telling the Maritime Commission that John Doan went aground because you neglected your duty and failed to maintain proper markings for the channel.
Can you prove that, mister?
I got plenty of witnesses.
Glass is still falling. We ain't seen the end of dirty weather yet. Another stiff blowout upon that freighter to bits on those rocks. What are you studying at?
Harbor charts. Look, this is the approach that John Doan was making to the channel. She should have picked up buoy light number 1 right here, veered 10 degrees to starboard.
So?
And that's exactly what Jorgensen said he did. But he overran the entrance to the channel and grounded on Dead Man's Reef.
Maybe the buoy cut adrift, ripped loose from a ground tackle and got blown up the passage.
No, the sea wasn't that high.
Maybe somebody's lying.
It won't help any if they can make the lie stick. Let's see if we can find this fellow Jorgensen.
That's the way it happened, I tell you. Yeah, I'll testify to it. Sure, she's aground. Well, I don't know if there's a towing outfit here in town. I'll try. Miss, I need a tug. You know where I can find one?
Sure, try Maggie's. Her yard and dock are down at the end of the street.
A dame?
You better not let her hear you say it like that. She'll scuttle you.
Yeah, thanks.
Ida, say, wasn't that Jorgensen who just left?
Yes. Oh, David, when did you sleep last?
About the same time I did.
Oh, you.
Where was Jorgensen headed?
Down to Maggie's. He was just talking to his owners on the phone. I guess they told him to start salvage work on the ship because he wanted a tug.
Maggie's tug can't handle a job. It'll take a big one to tow that hooker.
The way he was talking, I think he's more worried about the captain being on the ship. He's afraid she'll break up if the weather holds. What's for breakfast, boys?
Hey, save it for now, will you, Anna? Let's take a walk down to Maggie's.
Hey!
I had a double-barrel purpose in going after Jorgensen, and going fast. If the captain was still on the ship, then I could get him and the mate together. I could get a clearer picture of what really happened to the John Doe. Besides, I wanted to check those channel buoys on the way out. Seemed lucky at the time when one of our men explained that Maggie wasn't around her salvage and towing yard, because that made Jorgensen available to us. Thanks, Billy. Now, Jorgensen, I want you to come down to the harbor office.
I haven't got time. I gotta get back to the ship.
We'll get you out to your ship later.
What do you mean, later?
Now, first, we're going out to check the harbor buoys. You made some rough statements last night, mister. I want you with us when I prove you're wrong.
Yeah, I'd like to see you prove it.
Jorgensen got his chance to see. So did I. Our channel lights are red and green blinkers. Navigational buoys are white. Either Jeff or I check them every 3 days and log every inspection. We'd been out to these only 48 hours before. We knew they were set to burn around the clock with enough reserve fuel for a week.
Buoy one up ahead, Dave.
Well, mister, where's the light?
See what's wrong, Jeff?
Right.
This one of the lights you check every 3 days, mister? What about it, Jeff?
Dave, I can swear I opened that fuel valve after I filled the tank.
Sure.
Sure. I don't know. Maybe I might have slipped there.
What's your next move, mister?
We'll go out to Dead Man's Reef. Relieve the skipper of the John Doe.
Something on your mind, mister?
Yes, you said you saw a light last night just before you changed course.
That's what I said.
But you couldn't see Buoy 1 if the lamp was out.
I said I saw a light. I took it to be Buoy 1. What are you getting at, mister? You trying to say I beached the John Doe on purpose? That'd be barratry.
You said barratry, mister. I didn't.
Listen, I've held my ticket all these years without a single black mark. Captain Moffat's an honest seaman who sailed deep water when you were in your 90s. You're picking below the belt when you say barratry.
Mister, you said it. I didn't.
You're just trying to save your own neck. You lost your own job, now you're trying to louse up me and the skipper.
All right, mister, tell me one thing. Who'd want to see the John Doe piled on a reef?
Now you say it, mister. Why?
Salvage.
A cargo of coal? Why, it wouldn't be worth hoisting onto the bunkers in a salvage operation.
How about the ship itself?
A bucket of rusted bolts. Besides, she ain't an abandoned ship, mister. Captain Moffat stayed aboard.
Coast Guard signal to lay 2. Ahoy, David!
Ahoy!
We're heading for the John Doe, will you? That's right, Tom. Save yourself a trip. Phillips and Sawyer claimed her for salvage.
What do you mean, salvage? She's no abandoned ship. Captain Moffat stayed aboard.
No sign of him aboard her now. I just came from her. See you later, David.
Thanks, Hog. Well, Mr. Scott.
Well, let's go see Maggie Phillips.
Hiya, Gustav. Hi, Dave.
Maggie or Pete around?
Yeah, they're over there. They're working on that fishing boat that capsized.
I think it's a job of raising her. Thanks. Okay.
When Captain Harry Phillips died, he left his salvage and towing yard and Maggie. Some said Harry died to get away from them all, especially Maggie. She was a salty old scow of a woman, and somehow she managed a living. She took Pete Sawyer for a partner, and they ran a one-tug, small potato salvage and towing operation, and an occasional ship repair job.
Who's your ugly friend, Davy?
My name's Jorgensen, ship's officer.
Off the John Doe.
Is that a fact now? Terrible thing, wasn't it, Davy? Ship like that going aground.
I understand you're claiming of a salvage.
That's right. Me and Pete here spotted her early this morning. We boarded her, and when we see she was abandoned, we left 2 of our employees on her. All right and legal.
Jorgensen here says the ship's master stayed aboard.
That's right.
Well, now, maybe he did, and maybe he didn't. All I know is there wasn't nobody aboard her this morning.
That right, Sawyer? Yup. No trace of her at all.
Nary hide nor hair.
You mind if we ride out, board her, take a look around? Tain't necessary. Coast Guard did it already.
Ain't allowing no one on board her but our own boys, till the case is settled by Admiralty Court.
A regular sea lawyer, aren't you, Maggie?
I know my rights, that's all.
Well, you'll see, Cal, you might just get away with it at that.
Calculate to. Goodbye now, Davy.
I'll see you, Maggie. Jorgensen, who besides you knows the captain stayed aboard the John Doe?
Well, how would I know? I was getting boats off.
Well, you better have somebody to back up your story.
It takes teamwork to feed the world. Teamwork between nature, machine, and man. The man is Tom Howell, Arizona farmer. His job is to bring in the harvest, to nurse the wheat from seed to grain to market. He has to see that the combines reap clean, thresh the wheat from the stalks, and spray the golden grain into waiting trucks. He has to inspect the grain, too, checking his wheat the way farmers have always done. It's a real job, but Tom Howell likes his work. And like millions of smokers, he likes Camels. A real cigarette. Fine tobacco flavor, good and rich. A mild smoke that's easy to get along with. Why don't you try 'em? Have a real cigarette. Have a Camel. You get more smoking comfort out of Camels. Only top quality tobaccos are good enough for Camel's exclusive blend. Enjoy Camels. So good and mild. The finest taste in smoking.
Hello? What? Where? Thanks, Nellie.
Lena, have you seen any of the men from the John Doe?
No. David, Nellie just called. A body's washed ashore.
Captain Moffat.
Where?
Down at the beach by Seal Rocks.
Thanks. The crowd around Captain Moffat's body was silent and shocked. The bruises he suffered could have come from the rocks and sea, but I wasn't sure they had. We found ship's papers in an oilskin belt on the body. I kept them for inspection. None of the crew from the John Doe recalled hearing Captain Moffat's decision to stay aboard the ship after the wreck. If they heard of it at all, it was from Mr. Jorgensen. We got one other interesting bit of information. Mr. Jorgensen needed money. I told Jeff to find Jorgensen and take him down to the harbor office.
I don't care what anybody told you. It happened the way I said, that's all.
You say the John Doe was traveling in coal ballast, eh?
That's right. Coal for Halifax.
You certain?
Of course I'm certain. I'm the mate. It's the mate's job to see to the cargo.
He didn't load any cases, heavy cases?
What are you talking about?
This.
These don't make sense. Where'd you get them?
Off Captain Moffat's body? Jorgensen, your shipmates tell me you need money. You're in debt.
I got a sick wife. I got a lot of bills. I made a couple loans.
You needed more than you could borrow.
All right, I needed money. What does that prove?
How did Maggie spot the John Doe so easily?
How would I know?
You didn't tell her?
What's the matter with you? Why would I tell her anything?
For a piece of the salvage?
You're off your course.
Mister, look at these papers. The John Doe wasn't carrying coal. She was carrying $1 million worth of machine tools. That's why she could have been beached, why Captain Moffat could have been murdered and his body thrown overboard. Look at them. Ship's manifest, bills of lading, statement of consignee. Machine tools, Jorgensen, not coal.
It's a pretty picture you're building, mister. Oh, I ain't afraid of it. It just makes me sick. What kind of man do you think I am? Go on, call my owners. Talk to the port captain for the Dome Steep Ship Lines. Maybe you'll believe him. It's a gut since you don't believe me.
Nellie, David Scott. Nellie, I want to talk to the John Doan Steamship Lines in New York. I want to talk to their port captain. And Nellie, just this once, don't listen in.
That's right, Mr. Scott. The John Doan sailed with a cargo of machine tools. No, I don't know anything about a salvage attempt.
You receive any word from the captain of the John Doan after she grounded?
Just a moment, let me check. Yes, we did receive a message from Captain Moffat. And I'm afraid I've given you some bad information, sir. The machine tools were delayed en route, and the John Doan was sent out in coal ballast for Halifax. The machine tools are going forward on her sister ship, the Susan Doan.
Susan Doan? When did she sail?
Yesterday. She should be in your waters by tonight. Anything else?
No, nothing else. Thank you. Mr. Jorgensen, I owe you an apology.
It checks out?
Completely.
They tell me your father and your grandfather were harbor masters here before you. It's too bad they're not around now to see the mess you've made of things.
I guess we're pretty rough on him.
Yeah. Maybe I went too far.
Harbormaster. Yeah. Nellie wants to talk to you.
Yeah, Nellie.
Who?
I see, Nellie, thanks. Somebody called the Doan office in New York about an hour ago. They wanted to know when a cargo of machine tools was being shipped.
Who was it?
Nellie didn't have time to recognize the voice. Mrs. Trumbull was on the phone talking to Aggie Bartlett about a new son-in-law.
Nellie knows the voice of everybody on the island.
Must be a newcomer.
I can think of about 5 to fit that description.
And one of them would be Pete Sawyer. If he wanted a cargo of machine tools last night, why shouldn't he want them tonight?
Take off, David.
I have a couple of goons patrolling the yard. Watch out for them. If they try to go out with the tug, get back to me fast. I'll send Captain Dan to relieve you in about 4 hours.
Right.
Boy, your age ought to be ashamed of himself, poking his nose in his eldest business.
Dirty weather, mister. What's your course in the pilot's manual?
Dead ahead until we raise beacon buoy number 1 on the port quarter, sir. Then 10 degrees starboard to line up with the channel lights.
Bring her down to half speed and keep a sharp lookout. Easy to miss a light in this muck.
So that's how you beached the John Doan.
Yep.
Set out a false beacon and turned out the light in the real one. Then the ship set its course on your light and drove up on the shoals.
I always said you was a smart boy, Jeff Kittredge.
Belay the palaver, Maggie. Lend a hand to the pump. I'll tend to him.
Is this how you got rid of the skipper of the John Doan?
Poor man, he fell overboard.
You gave him a deep 6.
Eh, some calls it that.
What was that, Pete?
You stay out of this.
You told me you found the skipper dead in his cabin. What are you doing to that boy?
Got your bait trap, you old sea hag.
I wasn't bargaining for one murder, much less two.
You're in this as deep as I am.
One's bad enough, Pete. Get the weights off that boy.
You're fixing to scuttle the both of us, Maggie. We can hang for this.
I'll see you take the drop first. Take off them weights.
All right. That's the way you want it. Now, give me a hand with this old sea cow.
The sea at night is big and empty. Space expands in the darkness. Distances become enormous. And a search becomes as much a matter of luck as skill. And we needed plenty of luck to find a Shanghai boy and his abductors in this vast emptiness before time ran out. And before the lights of the Susan Doan came up over the horizon.
Throttle down, Dad. The Susan Doan. Just about entering the channel. David, you can't let him pile her up.
Open her up, Dan. We'll try a cast along the east shore.
What happens when they find this phony beacon? They never will. This here's an air bleeder. The raft will float just long enough for the bridge of the Susan Doan to see the light. And then the whole caboodle will sink, and the two of you with it, Mr. Kittredge. 30 fathoms down. Take her away!
Light off the port bow, sir.
That'll be beacon one, mister.
I'm not sure, sir. There's something about that light. It doesn't look right somehow.
Check your chart, mister. That's light buoy one. Can't be anything else. Hold her as she goes.
Maggie knew what every seaman knows. In darkness and in the channel, follow your charts and set your course on your marker buoys.
Our light should have sunk 10 minutes ago. Push this tea kettle over there.
Listen. Breakers. We're driving on the reef. Hard to port. Swing her.
What's that light over there?
Okay now. Sawyer, Todd, they're still out there. Todd, coming up in the port quarter, fast!
They're trying to ram us, damn. Hard over, hard! Freighter Susan Doan. Come in, Susan Doan. Calling the freighter Susan Doan.
Thank you. Bring down the engines. Drop anchors fore and aft. Scott.
Hello, Jorgensen.
I guess I owe you an apology. I guess I have seen worse harbormasters.
Well, Captain Jorgensen, new clothes, new braid. I guess I've seen worse sea captains.
I deserve that, mister.
What's your command, Captain?
The old John Doan. We floated her off the reef this morning.
I know.
I'm taking her to Boston for repairs. It's a good thing watching a ship escape the graveyard.
It's a better thing to keep ships out of graveyards, Captain. Sea looks calm this morning. You never know what to expect next out there. But this cigarette, well, that's something else again. You can count on a Camel. Same good taste, the same mildness, pack after pack. It's a real cigarette. I think you'll like Camels.
Each week for 16 years, the makers of Camels have sent gift Camels to armed force members and military and veterans hospitals. This week, free Camels go to Veterans Hospitals Togus, Maine, and Fort Howard, Maryland. U.S. Army Hospital, Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, to all hospitals operated by the U.S. Air Forces in Europe.
So refreshing, your first spring day on the water. You can recall it every time you light a Salem cigarette. For Salem refreshes your taste as spring does you. Smoking was never like this before. Menthol fresh, rich tobacco taste, most modern filter. That's Salem. The cigarette that so refreshes your taste, you take a puff. It's springtime. Yes, you smoke refreshed pack after pack. For to rich tobacco taste, Salem adds a new surprise softness, a refreshing quality that brings smoking ease and comfort you never met before. Through Salem's pure white filter flows the freshest taste in cigarettes. So try Salem, a new idea in smoking.
And now I'd like you to see some scenes from next week's adventure at Scott Island.
Mr. Scott.
Hello, Mr. Ross. How's Buoy getting along?
Well, I'm afraid he's worse. David Scott, meet Don Crowley and Hal Edwards. Members of their family are sick, too.
Doc Meeker said you'd be out here.
Something wrong?
Tom Ross and a crowd of people are standing outside the Coast Guard station. They're planning to take possession of the vaccine when the helicopter arrives.
Thanks, Anna. Next week, join me at the same time for more adventure at Scott Island.
Adventure at Scott Island. Brought to you by Camel, America's most popular cigarette.